And for more on this controversial leak of secret information, a global affairs analyst, Calvin Dark, joins me from Washington, D.C. Good to have you join us.
Good to be here.
When you look at the profile or the bio of Jack Teixeira released so far, you just realize how young he really is. But is there any indication as to how he may have gotten access to this particular document and then his motive for sharing them?
Hi, I believe I heard the last part of your question. I'm sorry for that. If you were talking about the motives of the leaker, one of the things that I just found really, really interesting is that, it doesn't appear that this was because of principle. It appears to be a criminal act. And if you compare that with past situations of whistleblowers like Edward Snowden or Chelsea Manning, a lot of people supported their goal of, exposing something the U.S. government was doing they didn't agree with, or providing transparency for something that they believed the government was hiding. And even the people that supported him realized they, supported the principles they were standing up for, even if they didn't support the illegal way of doing it. But in this case, I don't know if this is going to really affect legally with the law, but I know that it will definitely affect public support because people can identify him as having some principled whistleblower reason for doing this.
And interesting, you mentioned support, because we also see the level of support that someone like Assange of WikiLeaks has been getting in terms of his own leaks. But I asked you earlier if there are any indication as to how he may have gotten access to these particular documents.
Well, I think what it looks like now is that he had access because the particular department area that he worked in was on the, cyber communications. And so I guess that he had access to that. I don't think there's any indication that he had, maybe hacked or gotten access when he shouldn't have. But what I think it points to a bigger problem. And that is when they were looking for the leaker, over the last week or two, one of the big things was there were literally thousands of people with the clearance that could have had access to it. Okay. And one of the things that the Secretary of Defense was talking about yesterday, and I think that a lot of people are talking about now, is a way to make this more secure is to limit the number of people who have access, make it need to know. So I think that he had the access because that was his job. But as we look forward, maybe we shouldn't be giving so many people that access to that sensitive information.
Is this right? Because I also listened and read the statement from Lord Austin. And one of the things he talked about, I just want to quote what exactly you were referring to. He said that he's launching a review of intelligence access, accountability and control procedures within the Pentagon in the wake of this particular leak. But one is wondering, is it about the number of people who have access to this to documents, or the individuals themselves? So do you do background checks before you say, because again, at different levels, you're supposed to have access. But do you also now have to do background checks to ensure who gets access or not?
Let me tell you, we are on the same page. I had the very same question. And let me tell you, I actually, was doing some research, and I called one of my friends who's been in the military for a long time, because I wondered, what was the process, the background process for getting this position? Now, from what I understood is that to get into the military itself, there's a background check, but that's, more criminal, any employment history, credit history. But when it comes to getting the clearance, that goes a little bit further. It goes in depending on the level of the clearance, maybe interviewing people you went to school with, your family, doing a deeper dive into them. And when we see the information that he had access to, and we see the people around him saying, he was a little obsessed with the military, kind of obsessed with guns, wasn't really social. That's something that maybe should have been picked up in the screening for this clearance when he joined the military. So I think that we have to think about the number of people getting access, but then also maybe we need to look into who's getting this access. Because, one of the things I thought about, even if he didn't have the security clearance, do we want someone in the military who is not able to connect with people and is obsessed with guns and war?
Absolutely. But the big question now everyone is asking is how the U.S. will mitigate the damage this has done, especially with, especially in terms of relations with its allies. South Korea was mentioned in this particular document. There is Ukraine, and Israel was also mentioned. How do you think that the U.S. can begin to mitigate this particular damage?
I think that what the United States realizes and our allies realize is that for the short term, there's going to be some awkwardness, there's going to be tension, and the United States is going to have to very carefully and diplomatically, deal with our allies, understanding that in the short term, there will be a lack of trust.
I think we're having a network challenge there. There seems to be a connection problem with Calvin, but he was speaking to my final question. And I guess we would just leave it there. Calvin, do we have you back?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. You wrap up your thoughts on that question.
Yes, I was just saying that I think in the long term, there's going to be tenseness. There's going to be a lack of trust. But I think because our allies know that all countries spy on everybody else for our own benefit, I don't think it's really going to affect things in the long term.
We'll see how that final argument of yours will hold. You spy, I spy. So this is not a big deal. But thank you so much for talking to us. As always, the Global Affairs Analyst, Calvin Dark.
Thank you.